private practice owners, it's time to change the status quo that's leaving us and our staff burned out and our patients dissatisfied because we don't have the time nor the energy to give them the care they deserve. Welcome to the Provider's Edge podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Roundback. If you're ready to rewrite the rules for your own practice so you can have more time off, a greater team, and more income while delivering better patient care, then join us for inspiring interviews with thought leaders in the medical industry. Each week, we discuss improvements to operational efficiency, reducing provider fatigue, increasing access to meet patient expectations, and introducing the next generation of healthcare innovation. This is your defining moment to be a disruptor in healthcare. There are endless suggestions by the marketing gurus on how do we build up private practices. Yet many are noises. They are getting us more overwhelmed and confused when we step out and have the courage to actually build the private practice that you have right now or have started to expand. So networking, on the other hand, can be really powerful because you're standing out as the expert among your colleagues and letting them know that you're here to support them as well. And that's why I invited Dr. Jane with us today. She is a naturopathic doctor who specializes in fertility. And she has been on a mission to empower high-achieving women through her fertility, pregnancy, and postpartum journeys. And in her 6+ years of in this industry, Dr. Jane has helped hundreds of couples to optimize their health and prepare their body for pregnancy, which allow them to get pregnant naturally, have complication-free pregnancies, and give birth to healthy babies, and learn how she actually consistently building her practice and what her strategies are through networking. So please listen, subscribe, comment below, and we're excited for Dr. Jane to be here with us. Hello, Dr. Jane.
Hi, Sabrina. Thank you so much for having me and for that introduction.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be in this space and to feature our practitioners just like you and to learn about your reasons of getting into this field, some of the big wins that you actually gain from it, and then something
I lost you, but you're back.
Yes. The gift of internet.
Yes, the gift of internet. So I'll tell you a little bit about just how I got into this field. And I loved your introduction on the burnout of practitioners and not knowing where to start and, feeling like there is this endless game. So I recently switched into a fully virtual practice, and that was really timed with having my second child and feeling like I didn't want to go back to clinic. I didn't want to go back to the runaround, and I wanted to create a lifestyle where I could spend more time with my kids and not be worried about, filling up or driving or commuting or whatever, and really being able to travel and take my practice with me if I needed to. And when I do, right? So, because life comes up. As it goes to me jumping into the fertility space, I started out, so I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I just kind of started out as when you first graduate, that's the first thing you do is you're just going to see everybody and anybody because you're just excited to start practicing the thing that you've been learning for the last 8 to 10 years. And so that's where I started. And then I slowly started to get some business trainings and business ideas. My husband and I own a CrossFit gym, so we did some mentorship. And I started to kind of apply that to my practice to realize, hey, what do I want to do? How do I want to practice? Because the first couple of years, fresh out of practice, you're just going to do, and it doesn't really matter what you hear and what you're told. I think it's just the natural journey that you have to go through, which is just see everybody and anybody and see what you like. The caveat to that is you want to make sure that you're actually paying attention to what kind of patient do I like seeing and what kind of patient really drains me. What kind of patient do I love doing research for? And what kind of patient am I like, ugh, this case, like, I don't know what's going on. I just, you're just kind of trying to help them because you have a good heart. And that's why you probably got into the healthcare field in the first place, is because you want to help people. But it doesn't mean you're going to be able to help everybody. And so that's really important to start to differentiate. So for me, for fertility journey, I kind of started to have these patients coming in because I worked at the CrossFit gym that we own. And I did some talks and I talked about how, training with your menstrual cycle and hormones. And I got a bunch of patients from that. But a bunch of those patients were like, hey, I'm looking to get pregnant soon. And my hormones are all over the place. My cycle is really heavy, or I have all these digestive issues. My skin is breaking out, whatever it was. Do you think that's going to impact it? And I already had my firstborn at that time. And my first pregnancy, just threw me in for a loop. I had no idea how hard it is on the body and how uncomfortable I was. And now I was a naturopath. I was an athlete. I took care of myself. And so when I got pregnant, I thought, whatever, it's just the next thing I'm going to do. And it just wasn't the case. And my labor was awful. And not my labor, but just my delivery. And I felt really out of control. So in the back of my head, I already knew that, hey, I want to see if I could do this better, and not as a competitive person, but just as there's got to be a better way. There's no way women have to be so sick and so tired and sacrifice so much to have a child. And don't get me wrong, it's a huge sacrifice, but I just felt like there was room for improvement. And so when I got a bunch of these women who basically wanted to improve their health before getting pregnant, that was the first seed that planted. I had a family member who struggled with fertility. That was the next seed. And, and I helped her. And I really enjoyed those patients because they were very, very compliant. They were very driven. They were motivated. They would do right. The compliancy is one of the hardest things for most of us alternative healthcare providers, where you're telling people that you can't eat this and you shouldn't go do, right? They're having a hard time. So I like that. And then I had, I prepared my body for second pregnancy, and then I had a miscarriage. And that miscarriage opened up a whole different world to me because I already started to share my journey on Instagram, and we'll talk about the networking of it later. And as I shared my story with my miscarriage, I realized how many women were in this space who didn't have the support, who didn't have the knowledge, who didn't have the education that I did, and how much pain and suffering they went through without having any guidance. And so that's when I really started to say, hey, I think there's a opportunity in a sense that there's a lot of need here. And I know I can help these women because as painful as the miscarriage was, I knew how to support my body. I knew who to reach out to. I had a network of people because, again, I'm in the healthcare space. So I have professionals who are friends who pointed me in the right direction. So I felt very supported, and I feel like I healed, fairly quickly in comparison. And I moved through the experience in a way that allowed me to get pregnant again, within 3 to 4 months, and then have the beautiful home birth that I wanted for my first child and, didn't get. And that's what really brought me into the fertility space. It's my own story, and asking the question when I was growing my practice of who do I really like to help with? And what kind of research do I really like? What's fascinating for me? Because now I find I have to pull myself away from work because I'm so I love what I'm doing. And there isn't that burnout because you love what you're doing. And as soon as I notice the burnout, then I'm like, is this a patient that's my ideal patient? Or is this, is this can someone help this person better, essentially? So the energy exchange is always positive. I know that was a rant. I'm sorry.
No, this is I think you brought up some really good point is that when we fresh out, it seems like make us unique is we can do everything. I was just talking to a friend, really a client who are trying to build up a direct primary care with IV infusion, with the wellness parts, light therapy. And it becomes, my question to her is, what's make you unique? Oh, what make me unique is I can see everybody. I can solve, I'm unique because I have every tool and resource. But then the question is, if you can do everything, then nothing is connected to the specific people that you wanted to bring in. And in your case, Dr. Jane, you become someone who's so specialized because you have a personal connection. That makes you unique. You have a story. That story can connect with parents, with people who had miscarriage, or people who are newly seeking, who had babies, who had gone through the similar aches and pains and really stress on their body. They can hear these stories. They can connect it to. And then you can say, I am the expert in this field. So your strategy in reaching out these people are so much more easier now, instead of talking to 10 different profiling of 10 different problems you can solve. So I think this is a really crucial thing when we're thinking about your practice. Even in medicine, we have our subspecialty, right? Like the podiatrist, the cardiologist, the endocrine, and even within those, cardiology, for example, since I do heart surgery, now some people only do heart failure. Some people do interventional. And some people only care about specific devices, the innovation part versus the traditional. And some people are more into the biohacking, right? And whatever that means for you, that connection, I think that's the biggest thing about our unique ability as a provider. And that helps into even direction, right? And so you've been building your practice for more than 6 years, and it's definitely a transition as many people start putting everything online and then reducing the cost of your space of having a physical clinic. And how big is your practice now? Like, do you have how many assistants? And do you feel like because you moved to virtual, you have been able to have a smaller or bigger team?
Yeah, the dynamic of your team really changes. It's and the way that you split up your expenses also changes. So it seems like, oh, okay, now you don't have rent to pay, you don't have XYZ to pay, you don't have to worry about, like, now this is just extra income. But when you're coming online, you have to keep in mind that nobody knows who you are online. And so now you have to have, instead of having an assistant who's helping me manage supplements and do all this, now I have a social media brand strategist, someone who's helping me make sure that the content that I put out is speaking to the right market, someone who's making sure that all of my content is aligned, and creating, actually spending money on ads and making sure that that messaging is aligned and you're attracting the right person. And, to what you were speaking in, like, really you're speaking about niching down, right? So people are really scared about niching down. And like you said, in cardiology, there's like 5, 10, however many different fields that you can niche down to. And in fertility, it's the same thing. You can do pre-conception care. You can do after you've been trying for a while, how to recover pregnancy, post-pregnancy loss, how to prepare your body for IVF. Like, even though it seems like it's this big, broad field, there is a person in there that you're going to work really much better with. And when we're niching down, it doesn't mean that that's something that you're going to do for forever. Like, I know you mentioned, like, oh, I'm helping everybody. And really, when you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one, because people just kind of hear that message. And now there's so much noise on the internet, it's just going to go right through. And so it is really specific to talk to people's problems. And the more people you're trying to help, the more complex the system gets on the back end. And complex fails, simple scales. You always want to simplify, because the more complex it is for you, the harder it is for you, for your patient to understand. But also, the more burnout you're going to experience, because there's just too many balls to juggle. And then you have to hire out to help you, versus if it's simple, simple, simple. And so I don't have a huge team. I have somebody who is doing, my ads and my marketing and setting up all the Facebook stuff. And then I have a girl who does my brand strategy. She does my social media strategy. She does all my posting, reaching out for podcast opportunities, to create more networking opportunities. And then because I sell a higher ticket item, I actually take very few patients at a time. And that allows me to provide the care that I want for the patients. And then, I put out a lot of content. I have a DIY program that I've created for those people who are just kind of looking to dabble, right? They're just like, oh, I wonder what this is about, versus like, no, I'm really ready to change my life. Because as I worked with many patients, the ones that I help get the biggest results are the ones that I'm working very closely with for a shorter period of time, one-on-one, because I can make profound changes fairly quickly. And, instead of saying like, oh, naturopathic medicine didn't work. And it's like, what didn't work? Was there a diagnosis missing? And so that's kind of the path that I chose. So to answer your question with a long-winded answer here, is that I don't have a huge team, but the team just changed. The team changed from doing the physical stuff to really being behind the back end. Like my team is virtual, right? I have the ad marketing manager is in Australia, and then I'm in Calgary, and my brand girl is in Toronto, and she has an assistant that helps out. So it's nice because now you have the power to connect and do those things online, as opposed to being limited to a location and having to find like really good people that work with you well when you're limited to a location. I find like it just becomes harder, versus now you have this infinite possibility of like, there's a ton of amazing people out there, but they might just not be within driving distance of your practice.
Yeah, you're so right. And then that being said, I think some people would say, what would be the challenge of not either is finding these team because they're online, you're not seeing them, you only have a limited
Sure.
communication with them, or is the challenge is making sure your expectations meet?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to team, because I've made some mistakes in terms of hiring, like the kind of the advice that I can give in terms of hiring a team is hire up, not hire down. So you need to hire someone who's better than you at the thing that you're trying to get them to do. Whereas I hired an assistant at first to be like, I'll just teach her what I need to do. And you spend so much time teaching and integrating. And if it's not their natural skill, like if it's not a natural skill set for them, you're literally just paying money for somebody to learn that skill. And sometimes it takes 3 months, sometimes it takes 6 months, sometimes it takes a year for them to get. And I see a lot of practitioners get really frustrated where their assistants and the truth is sometimes it's the pay that you're giving them is all you can get is this skill set. So you might have to consider increasing your pay, but then you have to be really clear with the expectations. And then checklists, like, here are the things that I need you to do. What are you good at? What are you like really learning about them as people, if you will, and what they're inclined to do? Because once I hired I had that flip where I let go of my assistant and I hired my social media manager, brand strategist. Like I didn't even know everything that she could do. And I realized the certain skill set that she had. And she was just very organized, very, very on it. Like she had all the folders and charts and all of these things that I was like expecting from my assistant. And I just couldn't get her to do it. And the truth is, it's just like, it wasn't part of her natural DNA, if you will, and so I was trying to fit her into that box. So when you're looking to hire, it's don't just try to fit somebody into the box. Look at who they actually are and what they're good at. And I would, ask references. Absolutely. Call the references and see what did they do for your, oh, they were really great at communicating. They were really great at talking and blah. Okay, what about organization skills? And so like if the person doesn't say anything about organization and all you need is a super organized person, then right away that should, put a little bit of a flag for you. And then you just do a probation period. Always do a probation period because like I said, when I look retrospectively, it's always hindsight 2020. When I look at my assistant, and I was like, yeah, there were so many red flags. And not that she wasn't a great person. It's just like she wasn't in the right position. And I kept trying to put her into that position. Whereas when I hired my social media person, it was like, oh, this is what this is like. And so unfortunately, I think you do have to make those mistakes as a practitioner at the beginning, because you just don't know. That's the whole thing. It's like, you got to get that experience. It's okay. You're going to fail. You're going to hire the wrong people. Just move past that and hire the next person. And if that person isn't right, hire the next person. And that's just part of the game. That's just part of learning how to manage a team and what you need and how clear you need to be with the expectations and what the person needs to do on their day to day. And then systems and, charts and checklists, all of that stuff, which is, it's a lot of work, but you get the people that you hire to start building that out for you, and you kind of build it out as you go.
Yeah, one of the biggest struggle was when you stepping out beyond just a provider, you start thinking about business. The biggest fail in entrepreneurship is I can just bring anyone on, or I can bring someone on that seems to be good and we'll train them. I can train them and mold them into a certain way. But if we have to spend the time to train and mold them, you're actually going down to a distraction zone, right? Like I teach about freedom. How do you create a compass of freedom that helps you to build out your system, that helps you to gain back that 1 day per week? So how do you, if you don't even know what the beginning looks like, then you can constantly hire, constantly change. And the false belief we always have is, oh, what if I just give them one more chance? What if I give them a second chance? And maybe they can learn it better. But then anything that come back to you that's not right, you spend so much more time and agony and struggle to just fix their work. So it's not really worth your time and their time to feel inadequate for you making so much correction. And you, on the other hand, feel so struggling. I can't believe I'm paying this person, but they're not delivering. And the biggest point, Dr. Jane, you're so right. Hire up means you have to hire experts. And that's why you guys know I curate a long list of people who are specialized in just private practice, because there's too many people doing so many different things, and it becomes scattered. And when they don't know healthcare, they do not know healthcare. They don't know how we talk. They don't know what we struggle on. They don't know how our patient react. Just because maybe they're in business for 10 years, building different practices, a big organization, it's not going to be the same when we are small entities. And some are not even small, right? Some of my clients even have 10 clinics, but you still can't see that as a large organization with hundreds of employees. It just doesn't make sense. So the point about hiring, the least amount of struggle you're going to have and best effective way of output is to get references, ask the people who you trust, or I can even give you a whole list on people that you need to talk to, whether it's in the beginning or you're in the middle about scaling, right? The concept is just that it's okay that we have to pay a little bit more, or take a little bit more time to find the right person, but it takes them more time to find the right person so you can keep them longer. And if they're not the right person, quickly turn that around so you don't get the heartaches.
Sure. Well, and it's the reason that you want to pay that person more is because if you lay out your expectations, in theory, they should be bringing more revenue. Like everybody who's on the team needs to contribute to bringing more revenue. So even if it's your administrative person that's sitting at your front desk or checking in online or whatever, they're doing things like, hey, have you filled your supplement prescription today? Hey, have you done this? And they're doing follow-ups and making sure. So that is bringing in more revenue, right? If someone is sitting there and is on getting people to make sure that they're taking their supplements or whatever prescriptions, that's bringing more revenue. If they're following up on patients, making sure that they book their appointments, that's bringing in more revenue. So if everybody feels like they're contributing and you see how much they're contributing, like KPIs, the key performance indicators, and you put people in those boxes and they know the numbers they need to hit. And then that is how they just, get their salary. Then it's very clear, right? It's very, very clear. And like you said, it's always, you want to hire up because those people are going to bring your business way higher up than you could ever do. And for practitioners, like, the thought that came to mind when you were talking is, because I have some friends who are just starting to get into the business side of things, and we've been practicing for the same time. And my question to them is, do you want to be a business owner or do you just want to be a practitioner?
Yes.
Because that's really the question that you need to answer before you embark on this business journey. Because a business journey is like a whole other degree that you never got. And now you have to seek mentorship and you have to seek additional resources beyond what you have learned in school. And most of us, like naturopaths, we got so little business training that we kind of also got a cap put on us to be like, hey, if you make this much money, you should be set. If you have a practice and you're running this much, great. You'll maybe take a third of that and you should be happy with it. And it's like, yeah, but let's change that up. Let's not just put us in a little box and say that's all you could ever do. Saying that, though, I've done the technician role and I've done the business owner role, and they're very, very different. And how I split my days, it's like, here's my technician role day, whereas I'm providing the service, and here's my business head days. And if that's what you want to do and you're ready to embark on that journey, then, seek the help and do. But if you don't, then I really wouldn't. Like, I wouldn't try to. Now, I realize that practitioners listening to this are business owners oriented, but it's still a question that I would ask yourself all the time, because it's a lot of work, right? And
Right.
you will lose money, but there's also a lot of great opportunity to make more money and to create more freedom, but it's not free, right? You have to work for it and you have to figure it out, all that jazz.
Right. And what you talked about really is from the book E-Myth. So for anybody
Yes.
who hasn't read that, definitely it's a good read, whether you already started your practice or you're just starting. Because at the end of the day, we have to think bigger. There's just quickly, the E-Myth means the technician, the manager, the entrepreneur, right? The bigger picture person who can see beyond what's happening right now. The manager keeps status quo, make things happen, and the technicians who are in the ground doing the work. So majority of the time when we come out and when we're having any patient interaction, that's the technician part, right? That's the thing that we are trained for years after years on how to deliver, how to solve problems. But the manager's part, you really should hire someone who make everything happen for you. So then you can step away from your practice and things can still run on itself. And we don't feel like we're slaved by attached to that practice. Versus your entrepreneurial head is that bigger picture. Where do you want things to go? How much is right for you? What's the revenue for the monthly, yearly? How else would you be interested to do, whether speaking, research, or community involvement, to make you feel good about everything that you're serving on a larger scale? So that also being said, have you found did something happen to you where then you realize, oh, networking is the right way instead of all the other things I was doing? What was that back in your day when you discovered networking?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've always been like, I can make friends with a wall is the best way that I can describe myself, whereas my husband likes to be the wall and be left alone. So that's how we found him. I found a wall I like. But no, so I always really liked communicating and connection. It's been a strong suit. Like, I've coached gymnastics, I've coached CrossFit. We own a CrossFit gym, which is really community based. And when I started to practice, the way that I grew my practice that was inside the CrossFit gym is like, I would coach and I would just talk to people and then I would bring them in and then I would do some talks. When I stepped into online, for whatever reason, I thought it would just be different. And I don't know why. I thought it's like you just had to make content and people would come, and you would just continue to make really good content and people will notice you. or you have to spend a bunch of money on ads, right? But then you don't realize how much money you actually have to spend on ads and for how long, because there's just so much noise on the internet now that basically you have to just constantly put out content and information and then put some money behind it so people will just even see your stuff. And, I've done lots of different social media courses, if you will, and they always talk about networking, but I didn't it was only recently that I was like, oh, I just need to go out and reach out to people and tell them about me who are in the same space, non-competitive. So I'm not talking to people who are also specializing in fertility. Not to say that we can collaborate, but they're not going to promote my products and I'm not going to promote theirs because there's too much competition. But somebody who is in an autoimmune space or digestive space, digestive issues, or even some hormone imbalances, anything, you never know what stage you're going to land or when someone is going to need your help. And when you have developed a relationship with a practitioner, then those referrals are patients that are going to they're going to be so much better than anyone that you find online, and they're going to be a lot lower cost. Now, the cost that it is time. It's your time to build the connection in the network and the authority in the space, if you will. But like I said, it recently clicked for me that I need to jump on podcasts. I need to reach out to practitioners. I need to do, the same thing that I did for my brick and mortar. And, I still have some brick and mortar connections, and I just told them that I switched virtually. And like I said, those referrals are those patients, not even referrals, but those patients tend to be my long-term patients. They see the best results. I click with them immediately. And I truly enjoy working with them, as opposed to having more of a qualifying process, right? Because the internet is a big, scary place, and you can get a lot of different people that you're not necessarily going to be, fit to work with. So you have to have a qualifying process and learn through that. But networking is always the way. It's just I don't even really know what else to say about it. It's just hey, when you have a problem, what's the first thing you do? You usually message somebody and say, hey, do you have a guy or a gal who does this, right? I message my friends to this day and be like, hey, do you have a good massage therapist in this area? Do you have a good physio? Do you have a good whatever? And that right away, if it's a friend I trust, which obviously that's the person that I'm trusting, right away, I'm like, okay, book me in. I don't even need to do all the other stuff, and I don't bother doing, versus if someone says no, I don't, because that's still my first step. My first step is still to ask somebody if they know somebody that can help me. So if I have a problem, hey, who do you have? And then the next step is to Google, and then you're looking for reviews, right? You're looking testimonials, which is basically the same thing, but just from people you don't know. And so now you have to look through more reviews, and you have to, do more research. Now you're a little bit more hesitant. You got to jump on a call. You have to follow the person for a while, see what kind of content they have put out, see if you like them. So that process of nurturing is a lot longer than when you just have somebody who's you referred. So, I'm not sure if that's the same experience as you, but that's exactly what I think of when I need someone. I message my friends and I ask them, hey, who do you have?
Right. And then my last book that I published was just on this topic. How do we really become a magnet of talent? That goes both from collaborating partners, other practitioners that we wanted to be in our network, the people that want to help us to grow,
Yes.
to join our team. And as the beginning of the show, we talked about how do you hire, or how do you try them out, how to give that time. And those are all different skills that we have to have and to build this up. And then through networking, and networking has different skills, right? I broke them down by how do you listen, how do you ask questions, how do you evaluate, how do you even think about the personality to fit you what you need. And Dr. Jane, you even mentioned what is their natural talent, right? We have to have these specific way to ask them questions to bring that think all of them. So then we can put them into different subspecialty or areas per se that we need them to do the job that they're already good at. And that fits into the puzzles that we need for our practice to grow. So anything else at this point that you feel like, oh, I wish this part of my practice can be more efficient?
I mean, everything at this point. I do feel, because I switched not even a year ago yet. So there is a lot of system developing. There is a lot of me having to do the stuff before I can delegate it off and create a system around it. And there's a lot of kind of balancing, and I can see the system though, like I can see what I need to do, and I'm getting mentorship. So I know what needs to happen. But I would say there's a really great podcast by Alex Hormozy. If you guys don't know him, he's a fantastic salesman. He has a book called $100 Million Offer. I would highly recommend it, but he has a great podcast that's called Working at High Altitude. And basically, and he's a workhorse. So he really tells people to like, stop complaining and start working. Like, that's really what it comes down to. And every time my husband and I get into like, oh, I wish I had more results, or I wish more people. And it was like, well, what do you need? Oh, you want more followers, more likes? Guess what? You need to post more. You need to post more compelling content. You need to get people to raise your hands. You need to have ads, or you need to get more appointments in for sales. So there's always an answer. But basically, working at high altitude, he talks about when you first start any skill, it's going to be really, really hard. And it feels like you're working at high altitude. And you're going to be really tired, and you're going to be inefficient and fumbling through the process. As you get better, though, as you get used to working at high altitude, there's things that happen in your system, right? Your body gets used to being in high altitude, and all of a sudden that's your norm. And that's the same with all these new skills, that it might be overwhelming to hear that, oh, and I have to be a good communicator, and I have to be a good leader, and then a good practitioner, and then I have to have these systems in place. But just know that there's no expectations that you're going to be able to do that all at once, and that you're going to be really good at it at the beginning. So if you went to school for 8 or 10 years, like it took you 8 or 10 years just to learn the skill of being a healthcare provider, let alone now learning how to do business. And really, we say, like my husband would say, it takes about 10 years to master a skill, right? It's not that we say that, but that's just what we've heard. And that's what we believe as well. Just we've coached CrossFit for a really long time. And at that 10-year mark, I was like, you know what? I'm good. Like, I've mastered the skill. I don't really want to, I don't need to keep learning. I'm the quote unquote master, and I can teach now. And this is the same with the school. Okay, you did this. And then now with business, it takes a long time. And so if you just kind of break your tasks up into these small manageable things and realize that like, you're just going to suck at it. And that's where I feel like I'm not at the bottom anymore, but I'm not anywhere close to the top, so I know the skills that I need to develop, and every day I'm just showing up and developing those skills so I can become more and more efficient at them. And it's like struggling through this high altitude, like, when am I going to get used to this? When am I going to get good at this?
Right. Such a great point. I think even people who come to me is that, how do I'm growing at a good place now, but I just feel like tapping out. How do I get to the next level? And some of the beginning part, yes. If people
work harder.
In the beginning part, yes, you do have to work hard, and you can adapt to the same strategy. However, I don't even work with people who are just first year in, because you have to get used to the learning curve. And it's if you're in a place who are super on top, just like, no, that's fine, I will be more receptive, instead of our natural tendency is like, I'll figure out, right? But if we're constantly in the I'll figure out round, you'll never grow as fast as you need it to be. So when someone who are able to get the right business strategist, get the marketing team, right, as you were saying, and then get the maybe SEO or maybe the customer service, whatever those little components in the beginning you need with your accounting, with your people to set those up. And then you can start seeing, oh, yes, all of these are important. I'm not just me anymore. And then once I start learning all this, but how do I keep myself going in a steady way that I don't feel like I'm slave to my practice, then we can talk about efficiency, right? Because
Sure.
a lot of people is like, oh, okay, I can't allow myself. Well, we do have to give ourselves the permission to say, it's fine. I have to learn it and trial error, and we'll figure out what works best for us. So I appreciate all this communication, your input from the fitness CrossFit world, your specifically be able to niche down into fertility and how to do that, and the importance of reaching out, networking, really truly at the end of the day creating win-win situation, right? That's how people see you as an authority. So how can people find more about you if they wanted to refer patients to you for fertility, or just get in touch with you?
Yeah. And I love what you said about create a win-win situation. Like that's really what it's about. Cause I've reached out to some practitioners and they were like, no, it's okay. Like, I don't have any fertility clients. And I'm like, exactly. That's why it works, because it's not that you have to have fertility clients, or if you specialize in cardiology, right? Or digestive or health. It's not that you have to have, it's when you build this relationship and you have an email list that trusts and likes you, and someone comes in. So the way to connect, like I have an affiliate program that's called Fertility 101. And this is I don't want to say this is the dabble program, but it's for someone who is just looking to prepare their body for pregnancy. So maybe you already started trying, but like you haven't really, really started trying. It hasn't been this kind of long, torturous event yet. But really, you're looking to prepare yourself and your partner, and you just want to learn more because there's a lot of information out there. And so I just sim it down. And that's an affiliate program. So if you have clients who you don't even know might be thinking about having kids, you set up an affiliation, and now you get a percentage from every sale that the program makes. And all you have to do is send out an email saying, hey, I've partnered up with this person. Look at this great program she has. Do you want to learn more? And if they say yes, you're like, great, here's more information. And obviously I provide that to you as the affiliate partnership. And then you just collect money from that. And if you have, and the win-win situation is your client wins because now they feel like you're really taking care of them. Again, I don't know about you, but if I'm at my physio and I'm like, oh, this thing is really bothering me, and he sends me to a really great chiro, I feel really taken care of. I'm still going to go back to my physio, but now I feel really well taken care of because he recommended someone else that is benefiting me. And so this is the same thing. So the patient wins, you win because now you have an extra stream of income that you don't have to do anything for, like I said, except send an email out and maybe bring it up if you're in clinic in person. Oh, are you guys ready to have kids soon? Like, I know this girl, she has this great program. It really, breaks down all the information you need to know to get pregnant, to optimize your chances. Is this something you'd be interested in? Right? So then you're making money. And then obviously it's a win for me because yes, I get the percentage of that. And also it helps me to create that impact that I'm looking for. And that's something I noted that you were talking about. It's like, yes, we want to make money, but we also want to make an impact. Right? Like I think those are the two things, because money will provide us freedom, but impact is like, why did you get into medical school in the first place? You want to help people probably, right? Not to like, oh, I want to make as much money as possible. It's like unlikely those people, that's why you got in. So affiliate programs is really the best way. And to contact me, if you're a practitioner, I would just love for you to send me an email. As opposed to, you can message me through my Instagram as well, and just make sure that you tell me that you're a practitioner. But I love to get those conversations started on email, and I'll get you on Zoom, and then we'll just chat and talk and see if you are if we are a good fit to benefit one another. And I believe you have my email address, but I can say it if you need me to.
Yeah, we'll put all that in the show notes. So find, if you are active on Instagram, you can find Dr. Jane on Instagram. And if email is the best way for you to communicate, just send her an email, because we all know that sometimes the email can be a little overwhelming. However, we can use email the most effective way, right? Mm-hmm. That's a completely another topic that we can talk about. But send her email as a provider, simply having a conversation, learn about each other, other, what are something that you're focusing on, and simply exchanging the message. And that's how we grow and collaborate. And as some of you know, I do host our monthly healthcare disruptor think tank, and that's the space where we spotlight 30 participants to be able to collaborate with each other. So if you'd like to join us on our next event, it's going to be on July 10th. And go to sabrinarumback.com/community. And again, the slash is community to register for our next event. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. You're listening to me right now. Odds are you're frustrated by how healthcare practices are running today. I'm with you. I'm looking to change the conversation that we're having in this field. It starts with me, and it starts with you. I want to connect with you and get to know your own struggle or challenges within the healthcare industry. Visit sabrinarumback.com/connect, where you are going to find all of my social media platforms. Feel free to send me a direct message. If you, like me, prefer speaking, then you can record a voice message on the page. Additionally, I can get you an exclusive invitation to one of my monthly collaboration think tanks that are limited to 30 healthcare disruptors. So come to sabrinarumback.com/